Little girl showed up at prison and asked ex-convicts, "Who is my father?" That question froze every man in the room. The Community Reintegration Center on Maple Street had seen plenty of unexpected visitors over the years, but never a 10-year-old girl holding a manila envelope like it was a loaded weapon. "My mom has 72 hours before they take me away," Emma Rodriguez announced, her voice cutting through the Tuesday night support group meeting like broken glass. "She said one of you is my father, and if I don't find him by Friday, I go into the system." Marcus Chun, the group facilitator and himself an ex-convict who'd served 8 years for armed robbery, slowly stood from his folding chair. 23 former inmates stared at the child who just walked into their lives with a ticking clock and a truth bomb nobody was ready to defuse. "Sweetheart, how did you even find this place?" Marcus asked carefully, noting how the girl's hands trembled despite her brave stance. This wasn't some reckless kid, this was pure desperation wrapped in a 4-foot frame. "My mom told me." Rosa Rodriguez. She worked as a prison counselor at Riverside Correctional 9 years ago. Emma's dark eyes scanned the room, looking for, what? Recognition? Guilt? A father who'd never known she existed? The temperature in that basement meeting room dropped 20 degrees. Every single man there remembered Rosa. Beautiful, compassionate, the only counselor who actually treated them like human beings instead of numbers. She disappeared from the prison without explanation right before the facility shut down amid a corruption scandal. Now they knew why. "Where's your mom now?" asked Devin Tank Williams, a former enforcer serving time for assault who now ran a construction company hiring ex-cons. His massive frame shifted forward, protective instincts already firing. "County Hospital, room 314, dying from complications after her boyfriend pushed her into traffic 3 weeks ago." Emma's voice cracked on the word dying, but she swallowed the tears like someone who'd learned crying doesn't solve problems, action does. "But she won't tell me who my dad is because she's protecting him from someone." "Protecting him from who?" Marcus pressed, his instinct screaming that this situation was about to get complicated fast. Emma pulled a photograph from the envelope with shaking hands. "From him." She held up an image showing Rosa, visibly pregnant, standing nervously beside Warden Gregory Stone, the man who'd run Riverside Correctional like his personal kingdom before the FBI took him down for running an inmate labor exploitation ring. But there was something else in that photo. In the background, barely visible through an office window, were 5 inmates on a work detail. Rosa's hand was positioned strangely in the image, her finger pointing subtly toward those men, like a secret message only meant for someone paying close attention. "My mom said she couldn't tell me directly because Stone has people watching her hospital room," Emma continued, her voice steadier now, like she was reciting instructions she'd memorized. "She said, find the Tuesday night group at the Maple Street Center, show them the Christmas photo, and your real father will know what to do." Marcus recognized everyone in that background image. All 5 men were in this room right now. His blood ran cold. "Stone got out 6 months ago," whispered James Ghost Patterson, the group's tech expert who'd done time for hacking. "Early release for good behavior, despite being convicted of enslaving inmates for profit." "He's connected everywhere," added another voice from the back. "Judges, social workers, foster care administrators, the whole system." Emma's next words confirmed Marcus's worst fears. "Mom said Stone knows I exist. He told her that if she ever revealed who my real father is, he'd make sure I disappeared into foster care where pretty little girls learn to be useful." The implications of that statement made every ex-convict in that room ready to violate their parole. Marcus made a split-second decision that would change everything. "Emma, I'm going to tell you something important. Until we figure out which of us is your biological father, we're all going to be your father. Every man in this room." "That doesn't make sense," Emma protested, confusion replacing fear for the first time. "It does in our world," Marcus explained, his eyes sweeping across faces that had seen the worst of humanity but were choosing to be its best. "You came to us for protection. That's what you'll get." "But DNA tests take 2 weeks, Emma's voice wavered. "Mom said she has maybe 4 days left, and the custody hearing is Friday morning." Stone's lawyer already filed emergency placement papers with Judge Morrison, his former college roommate. The system was rigged. The clock was ticking. And a dying woman's last act of love was sending her daughter to the only people she trusted, men society had labeled as irredeemable. "Your mom taught you something, didn't she?" Marcus asked, noticing how Emma stood, balanced, aware, like someone trained to be ready for danger. Something that made her think you could survive long enough to find us. Emma's hand moved to her backpack. She taught me how to document everything. How to hide evidence. How to stay 3 steps ahead. She pulled out a small digital recorder. I've been recording Stone's visits to the hospital. He doesn't know I'm there. Mom hides me behind the curtain when he comes. Smart woman. Rosa had been preparing her daughter for war. That's when they heard the elevator ding. Heavy footsteps in the hallway. Multiple people heading their direction. Marcus's phone buzzed with a text from the building's security guard. 3 men in suits asking about a little girl. Couldn't stall them. Sorry. Emma's eyes went wide with recognition as the door handle started to turn. It's Mitchell. Stone's head of security. He followed me. 23 ex-convicts moved as one, forming a human wall between Emma and the door. Every single one of them had spent years being told they were society's garbage. Now they had a chance to prove everyone wrong. If you're wondering how a group of former criminals could possibly stand against a corrupt system designed to crush people like them, you'll want to see how this story unfolds. But here's the thing about men who've already lost everything. They've got nothing left to lose, and that makes them the most dangerous protectors a desperate little girl could ask for. The door opened. Mitchell stood there with 2 cops Marcus didn't recognize. Definitely not the regular community patrol officers who checked in on the center. These were Stone's people, and Emma's 72-hour countdown had just accelerated into something far more urgent. Mitchell entered with the confidence of someone who'd never been told no in his life. 6'3", designer suit, and a smile that made Emma shrink behind Marcus's legs. Gentlemen, I'm here for the girl. Mr. Stone is her legal guardian now. Judge Morrison signed the emergency order an hour ago. That's impossible, Marcus said, his voice deadly calm. Her mother is alive. Had custody. Mitchell pulled out folded papers. Rosa Rodriguez was declared mentally incompetent this afternoon. Gregory Stone assumes temporary guardianship of the minor child. Devon stepped forward. Let me see those papers. Are you an attorney? Mitchell asked with mock politeness. No, but I am. Attorney Sarah Chen appeared, having been visiting another client when security alerted her. She snatched the papers, her eyes scanning rapidly. This signature is dated today at 3:47 p.m., but Rosa Rodriguez was in surgery at that exact time. She couldn't have signed anything. Mitchell's smile never wavered. Dr. Cross obtained consent prior to surgery, while she was sedated with morphine. Sarah's voice cut like a scalpel. That makes this fraud. The 2 cops flanking Mitchell exchanged glances. The younger officer spoke up. Mitchell, maybe we should verify. Officer Reeves, your job is to enforce court orders, not question them. Marcus made a decision. Emma isn't going anywhere until we get independent verification. Sarah, can you file an emergency injunction? Already drafting it, Sarah said, fingers flying across her phone. Mitchell laughed. You people really think you can fight this? Stone owns half the judges in this county. You're ex-convicts playing hero. Society stopped believing in you the moment you put on orange jumpsuits. That's when Emma stepped out from behind Marcus and pressed play on her digital recorder. Gregory Stone's voice filled the room. The Rodriguez woman is a problem. Once we have the kid in placement, Rosa becomes expendable. Accident victims die from complications all the time. Mitchell's voice responded, and if she talks before then? Stone again, she won't. I've made it clear what happens to Emma if she opens her mouth. The recording continued, threats, admissions of labor exploitation, plans to traffic children through foster care. Mitchell's face went white. That's a legal recording. Single-party consent state, Sarah interrupted. If Emma was present during these conversations, the recordings are completely admissible. Reeves bolted out of the building. His partner Drummond hesitated, then raised his hand slowly. I'm calling this in to my supervisor. Nobody moves. Drummond, if you make that call, Mitchell started. I heard the recording. I'm not going to prison because Stone promised you wouldn't get caught. Drummond walked outside, radio in hand. Mitchell stood alone, outnumbered. But his smile returned, nastier. You think you won? This building has 2 exits. Stone has people watching both. The moment she steps outside, she's ours. Then we don't leave, Devon said simply. For how long? Mitchell pulled out his phone. Rosa Rodriguez coded twice in surgery. Her doctors give her 48 hours maximum. Friday morning, that custody hearing happens whether you're there or not, and every cop will be legally obligated to remove Emma. Emma's small hand gripped Marcus's shirt. My mom told me something else. She said if things got bad, I should tell you about the Christmas party. The real one. Every ex-convict went rigid. Because there had been 2 Christmas parties that year at Riverside. The official one and the real one, where Stone forced inmates to work a private event at his mansion, threatening their families if they refused. Rosa had documented everything. Mom said she gave someone the evidence file before she left, Emma continued. All the proof of what Stone did. She said one of you knows where it is, and that's why Stone is desperate to control me, because if my real father comes forward, he'll have to hand over what Mom gave him. And that evidence will destroy Stone. Mitchell's face went from confident to panicked. You're bluffing. Mom kept the originals. Financial records, photographs, video footage, everything from the mansion. Including proof that 3 inmates died during Stone's private events and their deaths were covered up. Mitchell backed toward the door. This conversation never happened. Those recordings are fake. And you're a dead girl walking. Ghost moved fast, grabbing Mitchell's phone. Too late. I just sent copies of your text history and that recording to 40 different media outlets and law enforcement agencies, not on Stone's payroll. Mitchell ran, realizing staying meant answering questions he couldn't afford to answer. Sarah's expression remained grim. That bought us time, not safety. Stone will escalate. Anyone know what her mother was talking about? 23 faces exchanged confused glances. Somewhere in this room was Emma's father, carrying evidence that could end Gregory Stone permanently. Marcus knelt beside Emma. Your mom was smart. But did she give you any clue which of us might be your dad? Emma pulled out the photograph again. On the back, in Rosa's handwriting, he held you first. He said you deserved better. He promised to wait. That memory belonged to someone in this room. And whoever it was held the key to saving Emma's life and destroying the man who thought he was untouchable. Time was running out, Stone was circling, and somewhere between these walls stood a father who didn't know he was about to become Emma's only chance at survival. The night stretched into early morning. Sarah had successfully filed the emergency injunction with Judge Patricia Morales, one of 3 judges in the county Stone didn't own. The hearing was set for Thursday at 9 a.m., giving them less than 36 hours to figure out which of the 5 men from the photograph was Emma's father and where Rosa had hidden the evidence. We need to talk about that night, Marcus said, gathering the 5 potential fathers in a separate room. Besides himself, there was Devon Tank Williams, James Ghost Patterson, Andre Preacher Washington, and Tommy Wrench Castellano. All of them remembered Rosa. All of them remembered December 9th, the night of Stone's private party at his mansion. I was on kitchen duty, Devon said quietly, his massive frame hunched with shame. Stone forced me to serve drinks to his rich friends while they made jokes about hiring the help. Rosa was there taking photos she thought were discreet. I warned her it was dangerous. I was on security detail, Ghost added. Stone had us stationed around the property like we were his private army. 3 guys died that night, complications from accidents Stone staged when they refused certain requests from his guests. Andre closed his eyes, the former gang leader turned youth minister visibly fighting old demons. I was there when Rosa found the bodies. She was trying to document everything, the forced labor, the financial records Stone kept in his study, the guest list showing judges and politicians. Stone caught her in his office. What happened? Marcus asked, though dread was already pooling in his stomach. He threatened to have her killed, to have all of us killed if she talked, Andre continued. But Rosa, she was smart. She told Stone she'd already uploaded copies to a secure server with instructions to release everything if anything happened to her. It was a bluff, she hadn't had time. But Stone believed it. Tommy spoke up, the car mechanic's hands fidgeting with a bolt he kept in his pocket. That's not true. The bluff part. I helped her that night. Stone's security caught me talking to Rosa near the garage. They beat me unconscious, threw me in solitary for 2 weeks. But before that happened, Rosa gave me a USB drive. She said if anything happened to her, I should hide it somewhere Stone would never think to look. Every head turned toward Tommy. You have it? Marcus demanded. You've had the evidence this whole time? No, Tommy said miserably. I hid it before they grabbed me. But when I got out of solitary, when the FBI raided the prison 3 weeks later and everything shut down, I couldn't get back to where I'd hidden it. The location was in a section of the prison that got demolished immediately after the scandal broke. I thought the evidence was gone forever. Emma appeared in the doorway, having clearly been listening. What section? The old chapel, Tommy said. There was a loose brick behind the altar, 3rd row from the bottom. I put the drive there wrapped in plastic. But like I said, that whole wing was torn down. No, it wasn't, Emma interrupted, pulling out her phone. She showed them recent construction photos. Mom took these last month. She'd been researching because she knew I'd need to find you eventually. Look, they demolished everything except the chapel. Some historical preservation law protected it. It's been sitting empty, but the structure is intact. Ghost was already on his laptop. She's right. The building is condemned and scheduled for demolition next month, but it's still standing. Locked down, fenced off, under security patrol, but standing. Then we go get it, Devon said simply. It's not that easy, Ghost replied, his fingers flying across the keyboard. Stone bought the property 6 months ago through a shell company. He's got private security there 24/7. He's been waiting, watching, hoping one of us would try exactly this. Sarah leaned against the doorframe. That's why he never went after you 5 specifically. He didn't know which one had the evidence, so he monitored all of you. Waited for one of you to make a move. And when Rosa got sick, when she knew she was running out of time, Stone realized she'd send Emma to find us, Marcus pieced together. He's been preparing for this moment. Andre looked at Emma with new understanding. Your mother sent you to us because she knew we'd protect you, but also because she knew we'd go after that evidence. She's counting on us to finish what she started. We need a plan, Sarah said. Breaking into that property is illegal. If you get caught, you all violate parole and go back to prison. Stone wins by default. Then we don't get caught, Devon said. Ghost, can you hack their security system? Maybe. But I'd need to be close, within 50 feet of their main server. And Stone's not stupid. He'll have backups, manual overrides. The second we breach that fence, he'll know. Marcus looked at the men around him, brothers forged in the hell of Riverside Correctional, each carrying scars from Stone's cruelty. Then he looked at Emma, a little girl who deserved better than the cards she'd been dealt. We need a distraction, Marcus said slowly. Something big enough to pull Stone's attention away from the chapel. Like what? Tommy asked. Emma held up her recorder again. What if we release some of the recordings? Not all of them, just enough to make Stone panic. He'll think we're making our move through legal channels. While he's dealing with the media storm and trying to control the narrative, you go get the evidence. That's actually brilliant, Sarah admitted. I can leak the recordings to specific journalists who've been investigating Stone since his release. Once it hits the news cycle, Stone will have to respond publicly, Ghost finished. He'll pull resources to manage the crisis. Security at the chapel will be minimal. When? Devon asked. Tonight, Marcus decided. We release the recordings at 6 p.m. when the evening news cycle starts. By 8 p.m., Stone will be in full crisis mode. We hit the chapel at 9 p.m., during shift change for his security team. In and out in 15 minutes. I'm going with you, Emma said firmly. Absolutely not, every adult in the room said simultaneously. Yes, Emma insisted. Mom said the hiding spot required something specific, a phrase, a code, something only her daughter would know. She told me what to look for. Without me, you'll never find it in time. The men exchanged glances. The kid had a point, but taking her into danger felt wrong on every level. I'll go, Sarah volunteered. Someone with legal authority needs to be present when you find that evidence, or Stone's lawyers will claim it was planted. Emma stays here under protection. No, Emma repeated, her voice taking on her mother's steel. "Stone expects you to hide me. That's what he's planning for. But if I'm with you at the chapel, I'm the last place he'll think to look. And if something goes wrong, having me there gives you leverage. He can't risk hurting Rosa Rodriguez's daughter publicly, not with the media attention those recordings will generate." Marcus hated that she was right. The kid had inherited Rosa's strategic mind along with her courage. "Fine," he agreed, seeing similar resignation in the others' faces. "But you stay in the vehicle unless absolutely necessary. The second things go sideways, Ghost drives you out of there." "Understood." Emma nodded, but Marcus could see in her eyes she had no intention of following that order if push came to shove. The plan was set. In 12 hours, they'd either have the evidence to destroy Gregory Stone forever, or they'd walk straight into a trap that would cost them everything: their freedom, their futures, and possibly their lives. Devon put his hand in the center of their circle. One by one, the others added theirs. 5 men who'd survived hell together, now fighting for something bigger than themselves. Emma placed her small hand on top. "For Rosa," Andre said quietly. "For every person Stone destroyed." "For Emma," Marcus added. "For the chance to prove we're more than our worst mistakes." They broke apart as Ghost's laptop pinged with an alert. His face went pale. "We've got a problem. Rosa just crashed again. Doctors revived her, but they're saying she might not make it through the night." Emma's composure finally cracked. Tears streamed down her face as the reality hit. She might lose her mother before ever proving who her father was, before ever bringing Stone to justice. Marcus knelt beside her, and without thinking, pulled her into a hug. "We're going to make this right. I promise you, kid. Your mom didn't fight this hard for us to fail now." What Marcus didn't know yet was that across town, in a penthouse office overlooking the city, Gregory Stone was watching live security footage of the reintegration center. He'd had the building under surveillance since the moment Mitchell called to report the disaster. Stone smiled as he watched the group make their plans, completely unaware of the cameras Ghost hadn't detected, the ones installed in the building's ventilation system months ago. He knew exactly what they were planning. And he'd been preparing his own countermove since the day he bought that chapel property. The trap was set. The prey was coming willingly. And by this time tomorrow, everyone who'd ever threatened Gregory Stone would be exactly where he wanted them. Desperate, exposed, and completely at his mercy. At exactly 6:03 p.m., Emma's recordings hit every major news outlet simultaneously. Within minutes, Gregory Stone's face was plastered across screens alongside headlines screaming about corruption and covered-up murders. Stone watched from his penthouse, that cold smile never wavering. "They took the bait. They think the media circus will distract me." At the chapel, Stone had positioned 8 armed guards, thermal cameras, and motion sensors. Hidden in the shadows, he waited with his team, ready to catch his prey in the act. But at 8:47 p.m., his phone rang. "Sir, someone just broke into your downtown office. They're downloading files from your private server right now." Stone's blood turned to ice. "Who?" "An older woman. She's moving really fast." Stone pulled up the security feed and went white. Rosa Rodriguez, who was supposed to be dying in a hospital bed, was systematically copying every file from his computer. Financial records, blackmail material, communications with organized crime, everything. "That's impossible," the doctors said. "The doctors you paid said what you wanted to hear," Dr. Patricia Kim's voice spoke from behind him at the chapel. Stone spun to find Marcus emerging from the shadows, holding Stone's missing weapon. "Looking for this? Ghost hacked your security 20 minutes ago. We've been watching you watch an empty building while the real operation happened across town." The thermal cameras showed loops. The motion sensors were disabled. Stone had been staring at fabricated feeds while his empire crumbled. "You can't prove anything with stolen files," Stone snarled, confidence cracking. "True," Saracen said, appearing with the group. "Which is why Rosa isn't stealing anything. She's accessing files from her own account, the one you never knew she had. Legal access. Legal downloads. All admissible." Emma stepped forward with Devon and Tommy flanking her, holding up an evidence bag. "The USB drive is real. Mom didn't just give evidence to one person, she gave pieces to multiple people. The USB has video footage of the murders. Mom's downloading the financial records now. And my recordings have your confessions. You're 10 years old, Stone spat. No court will accept your testimony. Andre stepped forward with his own recording device. 9 years ago, I wore a wire for the FBI. I've kept every single recording. Every conversation where you threatened inmates, discussed slave labor, planned those murders. Stone looked around, realizing he was completely surrounded. 23 witnesses, all ready to testify. This is entrapment, Stone tried desperately. You came here of your own free will to commit kidnapping and murder, Ghost said, looking up from his laptop. We have cameras recording when you told your team you planned to eliminate the Rodriguez problem permanently. Already sent to the FBI. Stone's phone kept ringing, news outlets, associates distancing themselves, lawyers refusing to represent him. In 2 hours, he'd gone from untouchable to radioactive. You still can't prove which one is Emma's father, Stone grasped at the last thread. Emma goes into the system Friday regardless. Emma pulled out the final photograph and a birth certificate hidden in the envelope's lining. Mom made me figure it out. Because she wanted me to choose, like he chose me. She walked to Tommy Castellano. You visited her in the hospital. You held me and said I deserved better. Mom wrote it on the photo, but I didn't understand until Mr. Castellano described hiding the USB drive. He said, 3rd row from the bottom. My birthday is March 3rd. Mom's hospital room was on the 3rd floor. Everything he remembered involved the number 3, my number. Tommy's eyes filled with tears. He dropped to his knees, hands shaking. I didn't know. Rosa never told me. I would have. You would have stayed, and Stone would have killed you. Mom protected us both. But she knew if I ever needed saving, you'd move heaven and earth to do it. Tommy pulled Emma into his arms. 9 years of not knowing meeting 10 years of never having. Stone lunged for Emma. Devon caught him mid-stride, slamming him to the ground. You don't get to touch her. You don't get to touch any child ever again. Red and blue lights flooded the chapel. Agent Rachel Morrison walked in with federal agents. Gregory Stone, you're under arrest for murder, conspiracy, human trafficking, corruption, and 40 other charges. As they dragged Stone away in handcuffs, he locked eyes with Emma. The little girl who'd walked into a support group meeting had just destroyed a man who'd thought himself untouchable. Marcus answered Stone's unspoken question. Because you never understood what you were really fighting. Not evidence. Not the law. You were fighting family, the kind built through loyalty and love, not blood. The FBI seized Stone's properties, accounts, and network. Judge Morrison resigned. Captain Walsh was arrested at the airport. The entire system Stone built crumbled. But one question remained. Would Rosa survive to see her daughter safe? Rosa Rodriguez woke up 3 days later to find her daughter sleeping in a chair beside her hospital bed, hand clutched in Tommy Castellano's larger one. For a moment, she thought she was dreaming, that heaven looked surprisingly like County Hospital's ICU. Hey, Tommy whispered, noticing her eyes flutter open. Welcome back. Emma jerked awake, tears immediately streaming down her face. Mom. They said you might not. I'm tougher than I look, Rosa managed, her voice weak but steady. Did it work? Is Stone in federal custody awaiting trial on 47 charges, Marcus said from the doorway, where he'd been standing guard with Devon. He'll never see daylight again. The relief that flooded Rosa's face aged her backward, like she'd been holding her breath for 9 years and could finally exhale. And Emma? The custody hearing. Cancelled, Sarah Chen announced, entering with official paperwork. Tommy Castellano has been granted emergency custody pending DNA confirmation, which came back yesterday. He's her biological father, and there's no legal reason to prevent placement. Judge Morales approved it personally. Rosa's eyes found Tommy's, 9 years of unspoken words passing between them in seconds. You didn't have to. Yes, I did, Tommy interrupted gently. I missed the first 10 years. I'm not missing another day. The DNA results had surprised nobody. Tommy's quiet strength, his unwavering loyalty, his instinct to protect Emma at all costs. It was all there in the way he'd hidden evidence for nearly a decade, taken beatings rather than betray Rosa's trust, risked his freedom without hesitation when Emma needed him. There's more, Agent Morrison said, stepping into the crowded room. Because of the evidence you all provided, we've dismantled Stone's entire network. 19 public officials indicted, including 4 judges, 2 prosecutors, and the director of social services. The foster care facility he controlled is shut down permanently, and 63 children have been removed from dangerous placements. 63 children. Emma's courage had saved 63 other kids from the fate Stone had planned for her. What about Mitchell and the others? Rosa asked. Mitchell took a plea deal, 20 years in exchange for testimony against Captain Walsh and the other corrupt officers, Marcus explained. Walsh got life without parole for his role in the deaths at Riverside. Drummond, the cop who walked away, is cooperating fully. Turns out he'd been documenting Stone's operation for months, waiting for someone brave enough to bring it public. The justice was swift and thorough. Stone's assets were seized and divided among his victims, including substantial payments to the families of the 3 inmates who died at his mansion 9 years ago. Their deaths, covered up as accidents, were now officially recognized as murders. Their names cleared. Their families compensated. But the biggest change happened at the Maple Street Reintegration Center. The men who'd protected Emma became something more than a support group. They became proof that redemption was possible, that society's throwaway people could be its greatest heroes. Devon's construction company received a city contract to rebuild the demolished sections of Riverside Correctional into a job training facility for ex-convicts. Ghost was hired as a cybersecurity consultant by the very FBI that once arrested him. Andre's youth ministry expanded into 3 new neighborhoods, funded by donations that poured in after the story went national. And Tommy? Tommy bought a small house with a garage big enough for his mechanic work and a backyard where Emma could play safely. Rosa moved in 6 weeks later, once she'd completed physical therapy. They didn't call it a fairy tale because fairy tales don't include trauma, mistakes, and 9 years of separation. They called it a second chance, messier harder, but infinitely more real. Emma started therapy to process everything she'd endured. Some nights she woke up screaming, reliving Mitchell's threats or Stone's cold eyes. But Tommy was always there, and Rosa, and usually at least 3 other uncles from the reintegration center who'd made it their mission to ensure Emma knew she was protected, loved, and never alone. 6 months after Stone's arrest, the group held a ceremony at the center. They mounted Emma's recorder on the wall, not as a trophy, but as a reminder. Below it, a plaque read, "The night a 10-year-old girl walked in with nothing but courage and taught 23 men what family really means." Stone's trial lasted 8 weeks. The prosecution presented over 2,000 pieces of evidence, including Rosa's files, Emma's recordings, Andre's wiretaps, and the USB drive that had survived nearly a decade hidden in a chapel wall. The jury deliberated for 4 hours before returning guilty verdicts on all counts. At sentencing, the judge asked if anyone wanted to make a victim impact statement. Emma stood, small but unbreakable, and read a letter she'd written with her mother's help. "You tried to make me disappear because you thought I was weak. You thought my mom was weak. You thought people like my dad and his friends were weak because they made mistakes. But we're not weak. We're survivors. And while you spent 9 years thinking you'd gotten away with murder, we spent 9 years building something you'll never understand, a family that chose each other, not because of blood, but because of love. You lost. We won. And I'm going to spend the rest of my life proving that people like you don't get to decide who deserves second chances." The courtroom erupted in applause. Stone showed no emotion, but his hands trembled as they led him away. 3 consecutive life sentences plus 127 years, no possibility of parole. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed Tommy, Emma, and Rosa. One asked Emma what she wanted people to know about her story. She thought for a moment, then said, "That being broken doesn't mean you're unfixable. That sometimes the people society throws away are the ones who save you. That family isn't always the people who share your blood. Sometimes it's the people who choose to fight for you when nobody else will." The Community Reintegration Center became nationally recognized as a model program. Funding poured in. Other cities requested consultations. Marcus wrote a book about second chances that became required reading in criminal justice programs. The men who'd once been told they'd never amount to anything became living proof that redemption wasn't just possible, it was powerful. Emma grew up surrounded by 24 fathers who each taught her something different. Marcus taught her strategy and critical thinking. Devon taught her that strength isn't just physical. Ghost taught her that intelligence could change the world. Andre taught her that faith and action weren't opposites. And Tommy taught her that love means showing up, every single day, even when it's hard. Rosa and Tommy eventually married in a small ceremony at the chapel where everything had changed. Emma was the flower girl, wearing a dress her mom helped her pick out. The entire reintegration center attended, along with Sarah Chun, Agent Morrison, Dr. Kim, and even Officer Drummond, who testified against his corrupt colleagues and started working to reform the police department from within. On their first anniversary of the night Emma walked into that meeting with a manila envelope and a prayer, the group gathered to celebrate. Someone asked Emma if she'd been scared that night. Terrified, she admitted. But Mom taught me that courage isn't not being scared. It's being scared and doing the right thing anyway. Gregory Stone died in prison 4 years into his sentence. A heart attack, the report said. Nobody mourned. The world moved on, forgetting him quickly but remembering Emma, Rosa, and the 23 ex-convicts who proved that society's labels don't define a person's worth. Emma's story became a reminder that justice sometimes requires ordinary people doing extraordinary things. That the system isn't always right about who the heroes and villains are. That a little girl's courage and a group of men society had written off could change everything. The real victory wasn't just defeating Stone, it was building something better from the wreckage he'd left behind. A family forged in crisis. A community transformed by second chances. A little girl who'd walked into danger and walked out with an army of protectors who'd follow her anywhere. Years later, when Emma graduated college with a degree in criminal justice, she stood at that same podium where she'd once confronted Gregory Stone and announced she'd be working to reform the prison system from inside. Because she understood something most people didn't, that the difference between a criminal and a hero sometimes comes down to who gets a second chance and who believes they're worth saving. The 23 men from the reintegration center sat in the front row, tears streaming down their faces, watching the little girl they'd protected become the woman who'd protect others. If you believe that people deserve second chances, that family is built through loyalty and love rather than just blood, share this story and remember Emma's lesson. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is ask for help from the most unexpected places.